know y'all probably looking for food or something, but it's kind of rude to be eating and talking at the same time, so we eat afterwards.
We do eat.
Or just before. Guys, welcome to the show. Happy to see you all looking all happy and holiday-ish on the end, But anyway.
Holiday-ish on the end.
Yeah, because it's toward the end. This is the end of the holiday season, and everybody's all still bright.
But you said we
happy.
Oh, okay.
Happy, joyful. It's the end of this year. This is the, and I know we're kind of dating the show, but when you all probably see this, you may not know, but this is coming toward the end of the year.
2022
About to be out.
out of here,
And we ready.
It need to be.
and it's taking a lot. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
2022 has. I don't know about y'all, but it's leaving with everything.
So I don't know if I was supposed to let you all know that this is the end of that, but I just have to tell my guys, happy new year and be safe and all those kind of things. So if you see this show in July, just act like it's July. Anyway, let me introduce my guest today on the show. That's my co-host that's always on the show. There are these three gentlemen right here, so I will introduce them myself this time. We have Kevin over there, Kelvin over here, and Lorenzo over there. Let's start with these questions today. So, my first question is, why are men, and I'm starting off with this because Kevin and I was having a conversation about going against the grain. So, why are men stereotyped when it comes to listening? It seems they say men don't listen. Do you believe that that's true? That a lot of men most of the time don't listen? We kind of go against the grain. Since you kind of given us a demonstration earlier.
Is that for me?
Yeah, that's
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Shots.
Well, first of all, one of the things that I wanted to, that I'm doing in my own personal life, but I guess I want to incorporate it right now that we have this moment, is that I want to celebrate us, celebrate men of color. So I just want to tell you how much we appreciate you creating this show and being who you are and doing what you do. We appreciate that. As far as the question, we just have to really be honest. Men and women are built a little bit different.
Right.
Now, I'm not going to say everybody is like this, but because we as men typically we're very surface, very physical.
Right.
We wanted to happen quickly. Typically, patience is not really something that we're really great at.
Right.
So yes, a lot of times you're listening to the talk or you're listening to whatever and you're just taking the top key points. Whereas with women are more intuitive. They go inside.
Right.
And a lot of times they're able to hear things that may not even really be spoken that men do not. So I think that's what people say, men don't listen, because a lot of times we like to just hear what's on the surface and not go beneath.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a very good example. I think one of the examples that I know two things I know I definitely do. If somebody's riding the car with me, and instead of me trying to get the directions, I was like, I know where I'm going, and know at some point I'm kind of lost, but I'm just don't want to say it.
It's a pride.
So, that I'm lost. I decided to take the scenic route, and then by the time we get this, you could have went and showed. I didn't want to go that way. I just wanted to go this way. Just hard headed. Just didn't want to listen. And then another thing is putting things together. We have directions that you can follow. I'm just not doing that. I'm just not gonna follow the direction. I'm gonna do it myself. I'm gonna look at the picture, and then I have a couple of extra screws left and some pieces left. Like they're just extra. I just make up an excuse. That was extra. We didn't need all those pieces. And hard headed.
There you go.
But it's fun hard headed. Now if it's a serious matter, then I kind of dial it back to make sure that I am listening, so I won't offend or that I don't miss the.
Now when that cabinet that you put together and you got them screws left over break, do you blame the company or do you blame somebody else for
ain't
breaking
my fault. It ain't my fault. You don't believe I have a manager that works for me, and he knows it's not my fault ever. But it's just fun. So, Lorenzo, what do you think about that? You think men are hard headed? Is that stereotype?
Yeah. I think everybody has a little hard head in them. Honestly, I think everybody. But pride and ego is something that we've been known to struggle with, and that gets in the way of almost everything in life for us. You know, us taking care of ourselves health-wise, us, you know, accomplishing goals and doing things that we need to do. We try to do it the long way, like you said, or the hard way, and because it's our way and we think it's better. When it's already been done before, all we had to do was listen to what was laid out for us. Like you just said, you gonna overlook those directions. Why? I mean,
Nope.
your ego.
Yeah. All right.
Your ego gets in the way, but yeah.
I think there's an element of it is like
Kevin, you look like you hard-headed.
Yeah, no, they used to call me Joe Rockhead. So there's an element, I think, of listening that, you know, we have to break it down. Because as you were giving earlier, there's context to it. You know, you're at work, you see what I'm saying? Then, you know, the way you listen, it's active listening versus non-active listening.
Okay.
Like even with talking with kids, are you actively listening or are you just looking at me? You know what I mean? You can tell, it's a difference. So, you know, I go by the mantra, try to make sure I listen before I hear, right? Because sometimes when you hear things, you don't hear it correctly, and you're not really listening per se. So if I were to be with a woman per se, then yeah, I mean, the active listening, it's a proponent that you can turn off and on. I feel.
Wow.
I feel it is a proponent you can turn off and on.
Listening to you, I think that's almost a geographical situation because I have somebody that work with me, and we go back and forth about who's gonna be wrong, who ain't gonna be right.
Yeah,
Just refuse to be wrong.
But again, yeah, it's stubbornness, it's pride, it's ego that's into it. But there also is an element I think too is empathy.
Okay.
I'm throwing it in there. Empathy will have you listening different to individuals if you feel for them and how they are feeling internally. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
And I do agree with that because I'm a good listener.
Yeah, you are.
But I also am good on reading energy. So sometimes to me, your words can be saying something different from what your
So I'm not
energy
even
is. So I'm paying attention to both of those things. But I'm a great listener when it comes to yeah, pretty much anything. I'm a pretty good listener.
Yeah, it does not benefit you to be so hard-headed that you can't have a teachable spirit. So I can be hard-headed, but by the same token, I definitely strive to have a teachable spirit in case what I'm saying. If it's playful stuff like I'm just refusing to put this cabinet by listening to the direction. Not reading the direction.
It's all context.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm curious who put that question
What you
together.
think,
Well, I think that, you know, there's two, you know, like when you look up a word in the dictionary, there's two different definitions. Okay,
yeah.
so we're talking about two different connotations of listen.
Right.
So listen is, am I being, you know, flexible enough to abide by a map or some directions that have been given to me, or some, I don't know, somebody just gave me some of their point of view on something. Can I, you know, or listening, like he was saying, active listening, where someone is speaking to you, or you're listening to, hearing something, and are you really listening, and how you're listening? And again, that goes back to what I was saying is, are you listening, you know, to understand? You know, are you really going inside as you hear the person talk?
Okay.
Or are you just kind of picking off the things that you hear them say on the surface? And so there's just two different things when it comes to listening. But yeah, you know, we as men, we can be very stubborn. I mean, I'm an Aries and a man, so I know I can be very stubborn. But the thing is that, you know, I think the more mature you get, the better you get, you realize that you don't have to fight the buck the system all the time.
Right.
And so when you've been given some directions, or when you've been given some advice, sometimes it's okay to just take that advice. You don't have to always go through the hard stuff to get to the end.
You don't have to always learn things for yourself. Some people done learned it already, just listen.
We all do a pretty good job at listening to each other, though.
Oh yeah.
What you say?
But no, we do a pretty good job with listening to each other
Yeah.
and hearing that. So I think it's just, you know, you breaking down some of those people in your life that you probably know that you shouldn't be listening to.
All right, so let's go to this next very interesting question. And when I ask this question, I want you all to think about this at home, and you can give us feedback. Send us an email. All right, so if you've been dating someone for more than 6 months, and you ask them to take a trip with you, should you also be responsible for the expenses? Whoever you're dating, should you, it's been 6 months now, you ready to take a trip, you ain't even asked the other person, you don't know necessarily what their financial situations are or anything, but if you ask them to go on a trip, should you be responsible for taking care of
Yes.
the expenses? Do you think so?
Yes.
What do you think, Kevin?
I agree. I mean, we're in the flued out generation, so you know.
What you think?
I mean, unequivocally, absolutely. I don't think you should be asking a person to go out on a date if you're not prepared to pay. Like, yeah, so going out of town, going out of the country, taking a trip, traveling, you should be prepared to pay.
All right, so you
Yeah,
don't think
don't spend my money for me.
Yeah,
If you
right.
ask me to go somewhere, you need to be paying for it.
Okay, so you don't think like, okay, well, I want you to go on a trip and this is where I'm going, and the person's like, okay, but I don't have. Okay, well, let's wait. How long ago before you get that check?
No.
Well,
no,
I
but
mean,
your
I do
question
think that that's a
was-
good thing to discuss that ahead of time.
Yeah,
But if
your
you,
question also was if you invite somebody to go on a
To go.
trip with you, then you should be paying for it. Now, it's if you present it differently and you say, hey, we're doing a group trip, you know, if you can afford to go, would you like to go
Okay.
on this trip with us? So, but if you're inviting someone, then I mean,
I think with the introduction also is the cost, isn't it? You know, you're packaging it all together at the same
Yeah.
time, and then you can tell from their energy if that's really something they might want to do or not.
but I just feel like you shouldn't even bring it to them if you're not.
If you're not gonna be responsible.
Yeah, or unless you're coming from the very beginning saying, hey, it's this really great trip that I saw and it's a great price. I would really like to go and I want to go with you, but I will have to tell you that, you know, I'm not going to be able to afford to pay the whole thing. Do you have anything that you could,
Okay.
you know, put towards it? Like, that's just being upfront and being very, you know, transparent from the very beginning. But again, if you are asking to go on a trip, it was your idea, you really should have the money to do
We
it.
also, before we get off there, we also are in a space now where the relationships, they have changed. So, you know, women, they do pay too. So
You want to tell us something?
I'm just saying, you know, it's a
Oh,
new day. It's a new day. It's a new age.
Oh, yeah. The
They
women-
will offer. Some will offer already to go. You go out to eat. They be like, all right, I'll pay, or I'll go Dutch. I've had that happen to me before.
Yeah.
I'm
But so-
fortunate, but
So,
Gotta get the cheap ones.
do you think about? I appreciate you offering you on the. So let's say you on the receiving end, and you be like, I don't know if I really, because you don't know if there's an expectation from that other person when they offer you.
see,
to
you
go
speaking
on a trip.
about you. I'm speaking about
No,
me.
I'm asking you if,
Oh,
somebody.
oh, oh.
No, if somebody asks you to go on a trip, do you then think about if you're invited on a trip, do you then think about whether you should say yes because you don't know? Now, this is me flipping the question.
Oh, because
You
if
don't know-
I was asked on a trip by
if someone asks on
woman
if someone
I'm talking, okay, yeah.
if anybody, I don't care who it is, just ask you to go on a trip.
Okay.
So just say somebody's like, "Come on, I want you to let's go to Vegas." We're
Somebody
going to
said,
Vegas.
we all, you put your money, you put your money, you put your money.
Okay, but if it's somebody that you, it's only 6 months that you're
Okay.
dating, right?
Yeah.
And then they go, I'm going to come go to Vegas with me. Yeah, I pay for everything. That's 6 months. I'm wondering, should you say, yeah, no, I'll pass right now. Let's give it a little bit. Let's give it 6 more months to determine whether I want to take a trip, or do you do like I think my friend down on the end think, oh, I'm gonna go, but I don't have my own money just in case.
Oh, I always go with mom.
It never hurts to go with your own money.
I always go with mom.
I mean, I think that's adulthood. You know what I'm saying? If somebody, I mean, if you
Bring your
ask
wallet with
me out, if you ask me to go on a trip,
Uh-huh.
I absolutely feel like you should be paying for it.
Right.
But as an adult, as a man, I'm gonna be prepared for anything
Right.
that might happen when I'm on this trip with you,
Okay, all right,
or I'm not going.
okay, all right.
Yeah,
all
I
right,
mean,
all right.
look, you date me for 6 months. You want to take me out the country? Here.
And I don't believe in living outside of my means. So if I can't afford to pay for something, if I can't afford to go, then I'm
You're not gonna
okay
go,
with
yeah.
saying no, I can't go.
Okay.
Like I'm cool with that.
We're gonna take a quick commercial break because this next question is gonna be quite a doozy. All right.
About to do it again. Yeah, let's just start. You know, start the conversation, start the project, and don't let not starting be the reason you didn't succeed. Enter a space where you can dream free and start or continue your journey. Located in a building and street full of history, I challenge you. I challenge you to start. we see the vibes. No worries. With our space and your imagination, the possibilities are endless. Having a comfortable space for your podcast, film, or any other production is the first step to you starting. And always remember to dream, create, and then do it all over.
Now that we've established that if any of these guys on the panel ask you to go out, don't even worry about having any money because they're going to pay.
Absolutely.
They already said that. No, I'm going to try to change it. Now you
You
said
can still have your money though.
just in case. Okay, all right. All right, so listen, you all know that child support is like a big debate in a lot of different arenas. So here's my question. If a man is paying child support of more than $600 per month, should he also be responsible for clothes, school trips, vacations if the other parent has entered into another relationship?
Huh?
So let me break it down to
Is
you.
it
Okay.
his child?
Now you already paying $600 a month child
Is
support.
it your child?
Of course, that's why you're paying child
The
support.
other
Now,
person has nothing to do with it.
but do you think you should also pay for school trips, vacations, and
The only one in that group that I would say you shouldn't necessarily be obligated to pay for is a vacation. If they're in a family situation, like if she's remarried or he's remarried and has a husband and a wife, and they decide they're going on a family trip with my child, then they should be responsible for paying for it.
But if it's
But-
something school related.
But if it's school related, anything else, because you will be paying for that anyway.
so don't so now they're okay. So check it out. So let's just say if I'm paying child support, I'm paying child support for the welfare of the things that my child should need. Or if they need. Now she's already making, or whoever it is already making X amount of dollars, because you could pay your own mortgage and all those things that's going on. You can pay your utilities, all that kind of stuff. So I'm already giving you $600. Now clothes have come up. Then you got $600. You mean tell me you couldn't buy some more clothes out of that $600? Now, anything additional like schools and stuff like that, then I think I'll just come up with that. But I'm giving you $600 for the fact I'm supporting you. But then you making enough money to take care of yourself, because that $600 I'm giving you is not helping you pay your rent. Whatever you're doing with it. But now you want me to give you some more money for some clothes, and then there's a school trip. Now, unless my child come to me and say, listen, I want to go on a school trip, and my mother or whoever is not going to pay for it, so can you go ahead and pay for it?
That's different.
Yeah, it's maybe a little different. But you already getting $600. Why your mama ain't, or whoever it is, have not given you money out there $600?
I think this goes more to a character question. The character of the individual that is raising your child. You know, we've seen it before within tabloids and news about different entertainers, and they're dealing with the mother of their children, and the battles in court and stuff like that. Now what goes into the amount at which they're paying, obviously if they look at income and such, but as we found that could be hidden in
Right.
discretion now. So but like I said, I think it goes back to character of the individual that's raising your child. If the means of which they ask and what they're asking for,
Okay.
especially if it was something that was agreed upon within the means of the child support.
Okay.
But at the same time, look, take them back to court if you need to.
Let me see. So I'm trying to watch my clock, but let me ask you this. Okay, if the woman has to pay child support to you, and she's already giving you $600, she's already giving you $600 a month. Do you think that women would view this question different and act differently toward it?
They do. They do, but they should be expected to give the same things that the man is expected to give. And that's part of the issue that I have with the laws, and especially Georgia. I can speak on the laws in Georgia because I've been touched by this personally. So my ex-wife, she got pregnant while we were married. The law in Georgia, if she had that child before we got divorced, I would have had to pay for that child for 18 years, regardless of the child being mine or not. So that is something that most people probably don't know. So technically she could have gotten child support from two people. She could have gotten child support from the actual father, and she could have gotten child support from me, because the law states if we are married, even though the child is not biologically mine, I am assumed to be the father because we're married. So that situation is a little bit different. But if the child is mine, then absolutely, I should be responsible for paying for and providing and taking care of anything that child needs. And the way that I think that should be done for most men, just to handle your business the way you want to handle it, but I think you should do those things yourself. Be a good record keeper and track your things yourself in case you do have one of those women that you had a child by that you didn't know her personality and you didn't know what she was going to do. I think you should be a good record keeper and take care of those things yourself, because you can't go to court with those things and say, hey, I am providing these things for my child, I'm providing clothing, I'm providing this, and just keep up with your records and your receipts and make sure that you're doing your part.
So the other thing about child support that I see is seem to be a problem is when someone is paying child support and then the parent tends to want to hold back from allowing the father or vice versa the mother to see the kid. How is that even possible right now? Because I have a friend I know now has gone through that situation. You're paying child support, but you're not going to see your son right now until they get ready for it.
The other thing that most people probably don't realize, when you are married in the state, you are governed by the state. So you are to do as the state says. It doesn't matter what your union as a couple says. When you sign that marriage license through the state, you are governed by the state. So you are to follow that state's laws. And that means that a judge can tell you what you're to do with your children and if you can see your children or not, and when you can see your children. A judge can sign off on that and say, hey, you can only see your children on weekends. You can only see your children, when I say you can see your children. So that is something that a lot of people might not realize either. Be careful who y'all having children by.
But you know what? I want to add to that. The simple fact that your parents sign a birth certificate for you and a social security card, also you are now a ward of the state. Your children are wards of the state. That's how, like, if someone accuses you of molestation or whatever, abuse in the home with the child, they can come in and take your child, because that's really technically not your child anymore.
Because they got to sign the birth
right.
certificate.
When you sign that birth certificate, you're signing your child over as a ward of the state.
And they're governed by the state.
And they're governed by the state.
Is there an option?
I mean, you have people who decide not to go through the,
kids out the country,
or not, or do natural childbirth at home. Like, you don't have to go to the hospital, but the hospital is in on it. So that, and because people have always done it, you don't even question it. You're just like, oh, I need a birth certificate. You sign a birth certificate, but it's the same thing with the marriage license.
So sticking with the birth certificate, or so that sounds like more like the sovereign citizen kind of conversation.
Well, I mean, you can be a sovereign citizen, yeah,
That's definitely a way around it.
Yeah.
So, and I know this is not part of the question, but talking about if my daughter has a child by someone, and he is not taking care of the child, but they did sovereign citizen type thing, how then would she be able to get child support from him?
She wouldn't.
That's like a loophole.
I wouldn't say that she wouldn't. She can sue for it. The problem is it's not going to be governed, so it's not guaranteed that that the courts will be on her side with it or give an amount. So when you initially asked the question, you said the $600. That $600 most likely is awarded by the state. So that amount, he wouldn't have to show his records of how much he makes. So say, for instance, he declared to the courts that he only made $500 a week, and the judge said, okay, well, if he's only showing that he's making $500 a week, we're only going to give you $100 a month out of his pay because of how much he makes. So that number may drastically be different based on that judge not having full governing over that marriage.
So this is where the sovereign citizen gray area is kind of gray for me, as far as believing that it actually is effective as it's publicized. Now here's what I mean by that. If my daughter has a child by this young man, they didn't get a birth certificate. They did what the sovereign citizen criteria is to become one.
Correct.
He's not paying child support there. He doesn't support it. But she said, okay, I'm going to put you on child support. They go through the court system. Doesn't matter about the birth certificate and all that stuff. But if she gets a blood test that proves that the child is his, I don't see legally how the sovereign citizen wouldn't have any impact on this at all, because now my daughter has proven that this is your child, and you making however much money it is, you're going to pay me. It doesn't have to be governed by a birth certificate anymore or anything, because the blood test itself has proven that yes, that's your child.
That doesn't matter when it comes to who you are, because as a sovereign citizen, you're not governed by the state.
Right.
Even if the blood test proves that this is your child.
Absolutely, because what the whole sovereign citizen situation is about, your inalienable rights and your God-given rights. Before you even start talking about a government and civil rights and all of that, your God-given rights. And although that is not a good thing necessarily, but he has his God-given right not to pay.
So get this, before, like, I know some of my aunts and uncles didn't have a birth certificate. Some of them may not have, or got a birth certificate. I'm talking about way before, not my mother's sisters,
Right.
but prior to that, they didn't get a birth certificate. But they were able to function and do all the things
Absolutely.
like a regular kid do. The law, they abided by the law like everybody else, because it makes it seem like, see, the question or the concern I have, I won't go too long, the concern I have about sovereign citizenship, it appears, it makes it seem like, and not that it's necessarily it's not necessarily as bad, but it comes across as though they, or the person that's choosing to be a sovereign citizen, don't have to abide by the laws
There are certain laws they don't have to abide by, because as a sovereign citizen, what you're doing is you're stating that you are a sovereign citizen of this country, that America. See, the United States is different from America. See, there was a governing body before the United States was ever created.
Okay, so get this. This is the sovereign citizen thing. This is not one question, but this is a good one. Okay, so let's just say you are. I came here as an immigrant, right? I get scared pregnant. I don't have a birth certificate because I came in from Kenya, right? And she's like, okay, you're gonna pay me child support. Are you telling me that I work for whoever I'm working for, that she cannot get child support from me because I'm from Kenya and I don't necessarily have a birth certificate that's governed by the United States?
Yeah, they can't force him to pay child support.
Okay, so I didn't know. I'm just asking. So we don't have we don't have a practicing attorney on panel, so we just have a discussion. So I'm not saying
We got a couple that's been through it before.
I would say, look, just to end that, the moral of the story is, if you want to avoid child support, make sure you're a sovereign citizen.
I would not take that advice from Kelvin
Wow.
because he is not an attorney practicing. So these are just discussions that we have. Don't do what Kevin is suggesting, because
Take care of him.
you're gonna be going to jail. That was a good conversation, y'all. Thank y'all for that. Thank you all for listening. I appreciate you all. We will be back again with some more amazing topics here on Brothers in the Kitchen.